what's up? Hello. If you're new here, my name is Kayla and you're watching Kayla's Bookish Vibes. In today's video, I'm super excited for because we are going to be kicking off a new series here on my channel. I gotta see what she's barking at. My old lady was barking and she don't usually bark unless there's a reason to bark. Anyway, today we're going to be kicking off a new series here on my channel that I'm super excited about, where we are going to be taking reading recommendations from booktubers. But these are not going to be like reading recommendations that they gave specifically for me based on my interests. It's going to be recommendations that I'm taking from their channels just because I naturally watch their videos often. So I'll be picking books that they normally talk about a lot, or that I've literally seen them say like, this is my favorite book. So the first YouTuber that we are going to be doing this with is Desmond Z. I will leave his channel linked for you down below. I enjoy his content. He is absolutely hilarious and I love watching him give book reviews. But the book that he unknowingly recommended to me, I actually got in my book of the month box. So we're also going to go ahead and open this. So one of the books was an add-on and the other book was the actual book of the month. So the actual book of the month is Isaac's Song by Daniel Black. So excited to read this one, but before I can read this one, I have to actually read Desmond's recommendation, which is Don't Cry for Me by Daniel Black. This apparently is a book that Desmond really enjoys. He absolutely loves, and I believe it's one of his favorite books. So I can't wait to get into this book. He actually commented, he said, like, the way that you feel about the reform story is how I feel about Don't Cry for Me. And I was like, say less. So now I have to read this book. This was an add-on. So I was like, why not just read both books in a vlog? Because this is a continuation. This one just released this month of this book. So we'll go into a little bit more of the synopsis like once I start reading these books, and you'll see how they are both intertwined. But I'm excited to read these, and I'm glad that I get to read them in the way that I do get to read them, because a lot of people had to wait for this book to come out after reading this one, and I don't. I can just read them back to back, and I think that's going to make my reading experience that much better. So shout out to Desmond Z. Again, I'm going to leave his channel link down below, and I can't wait to get into this book. We're going to start this one later on today. Lunch and working. We are 50%, a little over the 50% mark through Don't Cry for Me by Daniel Black, and I was supposed to come and give you guys my initial thoughts. I never did that because I'm reading this on audio. I started it yesterday while I was working and I just couldn't stop listening to it. I have cried a few times already and we're only a little way over the 50% mark, and I don't want to say this prematurely because I haven't finished the book, but I will be so annoyed if this is my favorite book of the year and it's only January. As you guys know, last year I read my favorite book of the year was the very first book I read for the year. So literally the entire year I'm looking for books trying to top this book and they just never came. And it was just a feeling of disappointment, but I fear that may be what's happening with this book. I can see why this is one of Desmond Z's favorite books of all time. I will now trust every book recommendation that Desmond Z gives going forth, hence now and forevermore. This book is it's doing that thing that I love. Let's just try to put some thoughts into words, actual words. There are no notes so far, there are no dislikes, so I can only tell you what I'm enjoying. It's doing that thing that I like, where it feels like you're reading about your own family members because it's so relatable to you. Our main characters, Jacob. So Jacob is dying. That is not a spoiler. He's dying and he's decided to write a series of letters to his son to try and apologize and explain himself, show himself to his son in, I guess, a way that he didn't do while he was, while he was in good health. And these series of letters is supposed to be Isaac, which is his son, Isaac's way of getting to know him in a sense, and maybe trying to understand why he is the way that he is and why he treated him the way that he did. Jacob is from the South. He's from Arkansas. Jacob's granddaddy, he goes like way back to his childhood. Like he's really giving Isaac an insight on how he ended up the way that he did. So he starts off telling him a lot about his upbringing and like he grew up with his grandparents and what that was like. And Jacob's granddaddy was literally my granddaddy to the T. The way that his granddaddy, and the fact that he even calls him granddaddy is crazy because that's what we called my granddaddy. But he was very strict and stern. And it wasn't until I became a teenager that I realized like my granddaddy is not mean, but he is very strict. He is very hard and he is very stern. And it is because of the way that he was raised. He knows no other way. He was raised in like the country in North Carolina, like dirt roads country. And he grew up in a time period where black men, there were very specific things that were expected of them, and anything outside of that just was looked down upon, right? They have these very set ways of thinking because they are products of their environment. And so Jacob is explaining this about his grandfather, and then Jacob is also explaining, you know, how he grew up and what was expected of black men in his time growing up, and how none of the things that is acceptable for Isaac was ever acceptable for him. And so he's explaining why it was so hard for him to see Isaac the way Isaac desired to be seen. It's touching. As a mother to 2 black boys, that's why I'm crying. That's why I keep crying. Because I'm just like, I just keep putting my own children in this book, and I'm thinking to myself, I would be heartbroken, truly heartbroken, if my boys ever felt the way that Isaac must have felt. I haven't seen Isaac in this book. We don't, I'm assuming that's what Isaac's song is about, is Isaac's response to this book. So I don't know how Isaac feels, but I can only picture it as a mother. And I'm just like, there's nothing that my boys could do. There's nothing my boys could say. There's nothing my boys could be that would ever make me change the way I feel for them, or how I view them, or my ability to be there for them in any capacity. And so to see Isaac being let down is heartbreaking for me. It's devastating for me. And I have to keep reminding myself that this is fictional. These are not real people. This is not a real child. But it reads like it because it's so relatable, right? I know men like this. I know men like this. I have a father who was like this. I have a granddaddy who was like this. Like, I know these people. Intimately, I know them. So it's just an extremely relatable book. I'm enjoying it. I can't give it a star rating yet because we haven't finished it, but we will be finishing this book today. There's no way I'm taking this book another day. I have to finish it today. So I will give you guys my final star ratings, and maybe I can come up with some like better thoughts, like more cohesive words to explain to you what I'm loving about this book, and a better synopsis. Although the synopsis is what it is. It's just a series of letters written by a father to his son, explaining himself, really. So yeah, I'll let you guys know when I finish this book. I love this chair so much. Like, so much. I love this chair. It's so comfortable. I literally sleep in this chair quite often. But we're back, and it's actually been days later. Sitting here eating my ice cream, which ultimate snack, butter pecan ice cream with cinnamon toast crunch on top. Crush it up in the ice cream. Chef's kiss. Anyway, I'm sitting here eating my ice cream, scrolling on Threads, which I don't know if you have Threads, but it's like, you know, the little Twitter, but for Instagram. I'm on there and I'm realizing that I'm like missing out on some sort of book drama, book tea going on. Here's the thing. I have book threads to kind of like keep up with some of the ladies that I used to follow on Booktok on TikTok. Since it's about to be over, I tried to follow as many as I could on Instagram, and they seem to do a lot of yapping on Threads. So, you know, try to keep up with them and like, you know, support them in any way that I can now that TikTok is going away. I'm trying to use my Threads more. I don't actually post on Threads, so you can follow me there if you want, but you're not missing out on anything. I'm really there so that I can interact with the other bookish people. And I'm realizing that there's like some bookish drama with an author who used someone else's likeness for their cover. And then the person randomly found out about it because someone sent her a picture and was like, hey, is this you? And she was like, yes, but I didn't approve this. I actually have one of the author's books on my shelf. I'm not going to get into who the author was or the whole girl situation, but I've always wondered this. So when we have like books with very real people on the front, I have to put a book on the screen because I don't want to mess up my shelves. I'll put a book here. And most of the time, that's why I hate for my romances to have this. I prefer for my romances, even though the book that I'm discussing, I don't think is a romance. Is this a peanut? That's embarrassing. That was ice cream. Anyway, I've always wondered, like, do people feel awkward when they see themselves on these books? Like, is it cringy? Granted, when it's a photo like this, I'm pretty sure it's just like stock art and you take these photos knowing you don't own the rights to it, and then whoever buys the photo can use it however they want to use it, right? However, the drama is happening because this young lady did not do that for this photo, I guess, and she had no clue that she was going to be on the cover of this book. And then I guess the author responded in a way that could have responded in a better way. Anyway, it's just a lot of drama and a lot of bookish tea, and that's what I was doing just now while I was eating my ice cream. Was trying to get to the bottom of it. I had to go down. It really originated on TikTok, and it kind of transitions over to Instagram, and then it trickled over to Threads. So I just finished going down that rabbit hole. You guys didn't come here for that. You came here because we need to give an update for Don't Cry For Me. I just want you guys to know I've been devouring these books. I can now take the cover out. I finished Don't Cry For Me, and I am now 50% through Isaac's song. I've been reading without y'all, obviously. Don't Cry For Me, final rating 5 stars. I don't even have to think about it. 5 stars. And I'm kind of scared that this is going to be my favorite book of 2025. And I have found it within like the first 2 weeks of January. If I have to chase this book for the rest of the year trying to find something that tops it, I'm going to be so upset. This book actually very nearly gave me a book hangover. It was to the point where, like, after I finished reading this book and I literally gushed about this book to my husband and literally gave him play for play what happened in this book and my feelings about it and what I thought about it, he was like,
you need to write this down so you can tell it to your vlog.
I guess that was like his way of telling me, like, tell someone who cares. But he was listening, so I kept talking. This book was so good. And after discussing, I was like, there's no way I could pick something else up. How do you pick something else up after reading this? The only way I could have continued on was to try and figure out what the heck Isaac's song was about. Like, how is Isaac going to respond to this? I already told you a brief synopsis of this book. My feelings of this book have not changed at all. Something about this book feels like an apology to any young Black person who reads it. It's like an apology that so many of us are never going to get. An explanation that so many of us will never actually know. But it kind of serves as that for the reader, if you can connect to it in that way. And I definitely connected to this book in that way. But it almost felt like therapy dupe. Like therapy dupe for sure. The father is giving like an apology in sorts, a remission of his mistakes to his son. I think I even said that in I'll put my Good Notes review. Good Notes? I'm pregnant, pregnancy brain. I'll put my Goodreads review here. But the father is pretty much giving like a remission of his wrongdoings and telling his son, like, I'm not this monster that you think I am. Although I know I've done things wrong. I know I could have gone about things differently. It's all I knew at the time. I love the fact that it almost served as an apology that Isaac never really got when he should have gotten it. I hate the fact that it had to come literally on his deathbed. Like, that is so annoying. But it is what it is. So after reading this book, I was under the impression that when I got into Isaac's song, that it would kind of be like Isaac reading all the series of letters that his dad wrote him, and then like us getting to know like how Isaac felt about all the revelations that were revealed to him. That's not what Isaac's song is. That's not it at all. Isaac hasn't read these letters. I don't even know if Isaac has gotten these letters or if he ever will get these letters. This book, without trying to give anything away, we start off with Isaac saying the day after his father died, which is not a spoiler because you know he's dying in this book. That's the whole point of him writing the letters to Isaac. So in this book, we pick up right after, like the day after his funeral, the dad's funeral. And then we go into Isaac literally being in therapy. Now this is therapy dupe. I know I said this was like therapy dupe after reading it, and it was, but this is therapy, dude, quite literally. Okay, I started highlighting and annotating everything the therapist was saying, and then I had to realize you need to stop, because you'll literally be highlighting every time she opens her mouth. Every time she opens her mouth, you will annotate in this book. So I've tried to stop doing that, because everything is like, wow, you're talking right to me. Obviously, I don't have the same issues that Isaac has with his identity. You can relate to this book in so many other ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be if you're struggling with your sexuality or your identity, right? One of his assignments in therapy was to write journal entries about his life and how he viewed it growing up. And I really don't want to give this book away, so that's all I'm going to say. But first of all, the journal entries are so interesting to see how Isaac viewed things versus how his dad viewed things, because there's some overlap in certain journal entries. And then there's also things explored here that was never once brought up here. And I think that is a testament to how kids can see things differently, and how parents can see things differently, how we remember things differently, and how that affects how we feel about one another, right? Like, your truth, for Isaac, things look differently to him, and that was his truth. But to Jacob, things were different for him and how he viewed things, and that was his truth. And I think if they would have just simply communicated while they had the chance, things could have been so much better. I'm already 50% through. I read the first 50% of this in one sitting. I'm probably going to sit here and read the second 50% of this in one sitting. Even though it's pretty late, I took a very long nap today and I'm up. So we're probably just going to read this together tonight. We'll see how long it takes us to read this, because I'll be reading with you guys. But I love the approach of this book, because so far Isaac hasn't gotten the letters from his dad. He has not mentioned reading them. He doesn't know what his dad's thoughts are in this book so far at 50%. So I'm trying to figure out, will Isaac ever get the letters? But right now Isaac is having to process as if he's never gotten the apology that he wanted, or the recognition that he wanted, or just like the discussion of things that he wanted. So he's having to process and forgive his dad without having received that. And so many people will have to do it that way. Like, so many will not receive the apology that we so desperately want, and we still have to heal and grow from it, you know, like, despite not having that. Can't wait to get back into this book. I've been waiting for it all day. I had to take a nap though, because I was extremely tired. But I'm really about to get back into this. I have my snack. I love these chips, okay? My gas station chips. I just finished my ice cream with my Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which if you haven't tried it, you need to try that. It's so good. That could just be a pregnancy craving, so I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt. But we're about to hop back into this book. I'm going to try my best not to stop every 10 minutes to dissect what I just read. But part of what I just read, you ever read a book and you're just like, this is why I read. Damn, Daniel. I got to read more Daniel Black. This is my second book by him and I have to read more. And I'm looking very dry and crusty, but we're having a little late night reading session, so that's acceptable, right? Right. Isaac is in college, and he decided to go to an HBCU, right? An all-black college. And he is discovering his blackness in a new way, in a way that I've always imagined people who go to HBCUs are able to discover their blackness. A time where I wanted to go to an HBCU, and I wanted to go to Clark Atlanta. I got accepted to Clark Atlanta, but at the time, Georgia was an out-of-state school for me, so I couldn't go to that school. And I ended up going to a PWI, which is neither here nor there. I always thought that if I went to a black school, I would be around, obviously, a lot of black people who had like this love for being black and for like black culture and black history. And it would just feel like I'm with my people. Like, they understand me. People aren't asking me why I'm reading slave books. Like, they would just get me, you know? And to see Isaac be able to experience this, even in just like this very brief portion of the book, like it was literally a page where he was explaining his college, you know, his first week in college. I'm just like, yeah, that's what I thought it would be like. That's exactly what I thought it would be like. I never got to experience it, but obviously we're here today and you guys see that my love for black people and blackness and seeing it depicted in literature. Going to a PWI did not have an effect on that. But just seeing him come into it and him realizing how beautiful being black is, and like the culture and the depth of our culture, and him realizing that what he thought about his father, who was, you know, who grew up in the South, and how he spoke, how that was wrong. You know, like him just discovering his own ignorance when the entire time he thought his father was the ignorant one. But also Daniel Black's ability to pack so much in such a short space. Like that was literally just like a page and a half, and he packed so much in that page and a half. At least that's what I was thinking. But then if you really think about it, like he set up so much in Don't Cry For Me, like there was so much set up in that, so that if you read this after you read that, it just kind of builds on it. And how brilliant is that? Like you have to have like foresight, I guess. I'm captivated. This is my first time the first video in the series of like taking book recommendations from other YouTubers. And Desmond Z has hit the nail on the head. He didn't necessarily recommend this book, but I do know that he really enjoyed this book as well. And because it seems like we've had very similar feelings about Don't Cry For Me, I know he probably loved this book for all the same reasons that I do. And so now I'm just like, I need to go back and look at all of Desmond Z's videos that I haven't watched yet, and just like make a list of all the books that he has recommended that seem interesting to me, because he did not miss with this one, baby. He nail on the head. I'm going to try though now to really read and get into this book and not stop every 10 minutes to dissect this book, because that's exactly what I will do. That's what I've been doing with my husband. Poor thing. It's like this is a perfect book for a buddy read or like a group discussion, you know, like a book club. But alas, I'm not buddy reading this with anyone. It's just me, myself, and I, and you guys. So let's get back to reading.
Where's my highlighter? Where's my highlighter?
I have to annotate. I can't not annotate this book. Like it's impossible not to.
Lord have mercy. I gotta put markers in this. I will go back and reread.
This is definitely a book I'm going to be making both of my children read one day. I'm going to try and see if I can get my husband to read the audio. Other tabs. Let me go back. I need to add all my tabs. Okay. Also, something else I love about this book are the chapter, and in the other book actually, the chapters are really short, which is why it's so easy to fly through this book and why it was so easy for me to read the book so quickly. And they're so good. Each chapter is so good, so you want to get to the next one. And then when you realize that the next chapter is only like 3 pages, like, well, I might as well read the next one. And then you just keep doing that, and then you look up and you're 50% through the book. I think I'm loving this book. There are also some things here that's helping me, right? Like I do feel like I'm reading these books and I'm learning new things, but also there's a lot of things that I already know but could have never put into words, like could have never explained it so well. And it's a book that I think everyone should read. Everyone should read, because it's going to bring so much attention to things that you may know in the background, like right in your subconscious, you may know these things, but to have someone bring it to the front and to call it out and to put it in very plain language is arresting. Like, it's very much like, wow, I never would have thought about it like that. So for instance, I'm going to read you a little quote that I just did. Isaac was telling his dad some class that he took in college, and how the black woman suffers more oppressions than any other in society. And his dad was asking him, like, how is that so he tells his dad they endure racial hatred, class stratification, and black patriarchy. And so his dad is not educated. I believe the highest education he went to in the other book was like 8th grade, and that was not consistent. So he explains to his dad like what he means by that, and his dad was like, I respected your mother. And he pretty much put him in his place and was like, no, you didn't. It was like, you did not respect mom. You disrespected her. And honestly, so did I. He agrees. And then he asks Isaac, well, how did you disrespect your mom? And that's the response that really got me, is by thinking that she should serve me. And his dad says, how is that disrespect? And he says, because I assumed that she wanted to do it. I ate without washing a dish. I dropped clothes into the hamper without a thought. I took a shower every day without cleaning behind myself. Of course, I did other chores, but I never honored hers. I just thought she was supposed to do it, so I never thought twice about it. When you were kind to me, I was appreciative. When she was kind to me, I didn't notice. Then his dad says she was doing her role. And he says, no, Dad, she was doing the role that you and I and the world assigned, and she hated it. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. As a mom, wow. But also as a daughter, wow. You know, like, I was once a child who lived in my mother's home and who did everything that he just said. And now that I am a mother and a wife, it's just like, wow. You know, we do these things because we just think that's what moms are supposed to do. Like, that's part of their job description. When in reality, that is them extending kindness to us, and we don't even appreciate it or see it as a kindness. We just see it as something that they're supposed to do. Anyways, continuing on. Yes, we're back, and I have finished Isaac's Song by Daniel Black. 5 stars. 5 stars. No need to think about it. 5 stars all the way. These books together were amazing. And I'm so glad that I got to read it in the way that I did, which is like literally one after the other. I tabbed them both. I literally had to stop myself from tabbing this one because on my reread, I think I will just go back and tab everything that I want to tab. But I kept telling myself, like, girl, you're going to tab everything the therapist says at this point. Why even bother? I'm going to go back and when I do my reread, I'm going to go back and tab even more. I absolutely loved it. So I was under the impression after reading this book and hearing the synopsis for this book and then the synopsis for this book, I was under the impression that a whole book would be him like reading and responding to his dad's letters and Don't Cry For Me. And that wasn't the case. In hindsight, I'm so glad that that wasn't the case because in a way that would be making Isaac's book about Jacob. This very moment, like literally, this very moment just realized that the father's name is Jacob and the son's name is Isaac. Yeah, maybe a slow moment for me, okay? Don't judge me, but what? And then after reading the stories, like just the meaning of their names and like the biblical reference that is a whole nother layer of why I love this book. So anyway, Isaac's Song is about Isaac, and I love that. It's about him discovering himself. He's also doing like an assignment with a therapist, trying to work through his grief in a way, but really just his identity and who he is and why he's struggling with the fact that his father died. Kind of like his life story from his perspective. And I think I've mentioned this already, but I loved the fact that you got some of Isaac's story here, but it looks completely different from the father's eyes than it does from Isaac, who was actually living it. And so there were a few scenes that were like overlap, but they read completely differently because they were being told by 2 different people. And the therapist kind of hints on that in the book. It's like, you know, sometimes the truth is really about who's seeing it. And sometimes we can see the truth differently. And I think that that was portrayed beautifully in both books. However, Isaac's Song, there was a story within a story. And I lied to you not, guys. It's been a few days since I finished this book. I was doing my hair and I was thinking about characters and a storyline. And I'm thinking to myself, like, did I not finish a book? Is there a book sitting somewhere that I have not finished? Because I'm thinking about these characters and there's a conclusion that you don't outright get. And I'm like, I think I've laid a book down somewhere and I didn't finish it. And then it clicks like, no, babe, that was the story that was within this story. And you finished this book, but that was a story that Isaac was writing in the story. And I realized, like, I need a historical fiction by Daniel Black. I need to go through his backlog to see if there is one. But I need a historical fiction ASAP by Mr. Daniel Black because I was legitimately thinking about the story that was in this story as if it was its own separate story. And that was not the case. So Highly recommended both of these books. Shout out to Desmond Z. Okay, this is the first in a series. I do plan to do more with other booktubers that I watch and enjoy, taking their book recommendations, but he hit the nail on the head with both of these books. I absolutely loved them. Both were 5 stars, so we're kicking off the series with 2 5-star books. The work that was being done in this book was admirable, and quite encouraging for me. The exploration of self for Isaac, I was so proud of. Like, I was proud of him. And these books read like they were actually really real people, and they're not. Although there are people like this in the world. Like, it feels like real people because these are very real things that these characters are going through. And there are real people in the world going through these exact things. And so my heart just kind of broke for Isaac, but it was also mended for Isaac. And I was so proud of Isaac by the end of this book. The character development was amazing. I loved the exploration of education and like Black education in this novel. And that was something that was like really relatable for me as well. There was so much in this book, in both of these books, that were so relatable for me. And I am a straight Black woman. I am not a man. I am not a straight man. I am not a gay man. I am just a Black woman. But there was still so much that was so relatable for me. It's just, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was able to see myself, see family members in this book, but also just, I was able to see someone that I don't actually know, someone that I can't personally relate to, but I feel like I understand better after reading this. And now I need to add Daniel Black to like my list of authors that I want to go back and like check out their backlog, because his writing is amazing. The way he intertwines like education and even like the lack of education, and how there is still so much someone can offer without like a scholastic education, right? Like, they don't have to go to school to be smart. They can offer, and they have more to offer than just, you know, book smarts. I love that. And the value of both, right? Like the value of having a skill, the value of having discipline, the value of having hard work, how that is valuable and it is needed, and how it often bolsters up those of us who are able to go to college and who are able to get that education. And like, we need each other. Like, we need both in this world. I'm in love. I'm enthralled. I could think about these books, reflect on these books, and probably pull something new from them every time I really think about it. Man, what a ride. So glad I read that. I'm kind of sad and scared that I do believe Don't Cry For Me is probably going to be one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book of the year of 2025, and I've already read it in January. We'll see. Hopefully something comes along and tops it, but I don't really know if that's possible. If they could top both of them. I will say I did prefer Don't Cry For Me over Isaac's song, but I kind of, in my mind and in my heart, kind of view them as one book because I read them, you know, so fluidly. So it's hard to like take them apart. You should definitely read them both because it's an experience, and you get closure with this one in a way that you wouldn't get with this. So I don't know. I think I've rambled on long enough. Again, thank you to Desmond Z. I will leave his channel link down below. You should definitely give his channel a follow and a subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. If you stayed to the very end, I really, really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you made it to the very end of today's video, please leave this emoji to let me know that you stuck around to the very end. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.